Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday, I guess it is. And I am just going to share this quick minute, so bear with me. And there we go. Share. Okay, it's not going to let me share to my public page. That's okay. We can share it later. So first of all, happy 21st of the month, and so happy New Year. And always like to start with, what is your word for the year? Because so many people talk about their words or their goals, and it seems like to be on trend to talk about a word. So do you have a word for the year? And I think I should see comments. Okay. Not seeing any comments, so we'll just kind of dive right into the question that I got asked recently. And then I'm going to bring on a special guest for the evening. Yay! So the question I got that someone asked me was, "Hey, Shay, what do I say to my adult children who are ungrateful?" And this particular mom had gone above and beyond for Christmas for her sons and her sons' wives. And the wives, she said, her words, the wives didn't help out. The sons didn't help out, like cleaning up or getting meals together or, cleaning up when they were getting ready to leave. They had rented an Airbnb and they needed to really make sure that they were cleaning up before they left. She's like, what do I say? What do I say to them? And so we talked a little bit about expectations and what that looks like. Expectation is she was having a silent contract with this other person, her sons and her sons' wives, and she was not really expressing what she needed. She did not say, this is what I need you to do. Can you help me? She didn't ask for help. Her and her husband just did dishes for several hours and was really mad about it during New Year's Eve celebration. So instead of spending time with their kids and playing games and drinking champagne, they were really not happy. And I saw her probably a week later, and she still wasn't happy. She was still kind of holding that grudge with her. And it's so interesting to see how we don't ask for what we need in the moment. We just get into how upset we can be, and we don't think about, well, maybe I can just say, hey, can you guys help me out here? Because this is going to go a whole lot faster if I have help. And instead, she didn't do that. So we talked about, next time that she asks them, hey, if you guys all join me, then it would be a whole lot better. It'd go faster. We can, have more time together, more fun together. And she said next time she was willing to have that conversation. However, she had a really hard time seeing that she needed to set boundaries with her own way of doing life, because as a mom, she had done all of these things for her children their whole lives. Now they're in their 20s, and she has to step back from that doing everything role and start letting them take care of responsibility by asking them to participate in just the littlest things, and it will be beneficial to her for her whole family. So I hope that helps you. And if you have adult children and you are wondering why aren't they doing what I need them to do, and it's really about, are you asking them what you need them to do? Another person asked me yesterday, what do I say to my husband? I feel like he should know that I need him to hug me. And I said, did you ask for them to hug you? And she goes, no, but he should know. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not mind readers. No one is. And maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know that you need a hug in that moment. And so the good thing is that she was able to ask for it, ask for help, ask for a hug. And whether she got it or not, doesn't matter. She was just willing to ask. She was willing to set that boundary of she's willing to ask, and hope, and going forward, she's going to have a better relationship with her husband. So with that being said, I have just really been struggling this year on, do I continue this show and how do I want it to look like in the future? And so I have a wonderful friend, and she is one of my inspirations and mentor and friend and roommate from another city. And I am so honored to have her in my life. And she said, do you want me to be on the show? Because that will kind of keep the conversation going. That'll keep your energy up. I'm like, you know what? Yes, I need someone else to be on the show just to have a different conversation, a different flow of how things go. So I'm going to invite my friend Christine, and we're going to talk about, well, we'll just get started. Hello.
Hi, Shay. What do I say? How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be on your show. It is an honor. And I have to give it back to you. You're someone that I look up to and admire and just love. You're my sister friend. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. So we were talking just literally probably maybe an hour ago
Yes.
about our words for the year. And
Yes.
so I love what you said. And so if you would be so kind to share it, please, please, please share with us your word for the year.
Oh, wow. You know what? May I start with a little backstory?
Yes.
Um, this is for both of us. We have been practicing the one word method for many years. And it's something that truly has taken, in quotes, some of that pressure off that comes with a new year. You know me, so you know that I don't really focus on the calendar new year. I set my own new year, which is February 1st. And I really live my life every day as a new year. So there's that. And then the one word, I found it to be so helpful, just guiding me throughout the year. Last year's word was surrender. And
Mm,
the thing about one words for me is I don't select a word. I allow the word to be revealed to me, which is a process. I took
yes.
you through my process today. So you got a glimpse of my crazy brain.
Yes.
And you didn't have to confirm that so
Yes.
quickly.
Yes.
Yes, I am a little crazy. We all are. And so this year, this season, which is usually between the months of November and December, is when I start having these conversations with the divine about what's the word for the year. And usually around the last 2 weeks, it's revealed to me. This year, this past season, there were many words, great words, and I put them all in my journal. I meditated on them, and just nothing was coming. Nothing was coming. And I said, you know what? Just this week, I said, I'm just going to let it all go and just allow each of the words that I documented to just guide me throughout the year.
Nice. Nice.
I
So
thought
what,
so too.
yeah, so have you come up with anything since then?
Today, during my meditation, my midday meditation, it was
Oh, and we lost her. Not sure what happened. Okay, let's bring her back on. Okay. Okay, we lost you for a quick second.
Was that the required like buildup of excitement? You know, it just
Yeah,
cuts you off
exactly.
right at the cut. So,
And no, we're not going to talk about that.
and so today, Murphy,
So much for law, or so much for live, right?
I love live stream.
Yeah.
So today it was revealed to me, and it came in a whisper, and I was sitting in this very room on this very chair, and this is what was whispered to me, and I'm so excited because I'm going to expand on why. The words were, Christine, why are you agonizing over a word when you can be a color?
Mm,
And I immediately felt this sense of relief. And
yeah.
the color that was revealed to me is orange. Orange is my color for the year.
Nice.
And so thank you for letting me share this live because I literally just found this out today.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm excited for you to share it.
Thank you. And, you know, the main word that was in my heart was vitality for this year. After almost a 2-year semi-social sabbatical, I just feel this need for energy and excitement and enthusiasm and just life
Yeah.
coursing through my veins. And so this color is perfect for that. And
Mm,
what I love about the color is that it embodies vitality, and it also embodies so many other words that can
right.
guide me through the year. And so this is my encouragement to everyone. My movement is Create, Live, Be, where I encourage people to think and live creatively. And that starts with color. Color is everything. It's our world, and it guides us, it guides our souls, it gives us energy, it heals us. Colors heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very excited about this word.
I will, and I'm excited about the word too, from the standpoint of it's not a word. It's something
Yes.
completely different.
It's a
And
feeling.
right, I think for many years people were like, "Oh, what's your resolution?" And then it went to goals, and now it's a word. What are you going to live by? And yours went like totally different direction of not forget the word. What's the color?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you think of the word, well, not even the word, when you think of orange, what what do you feel?
Excited.
Yeah.
Excitement. One of my mentors, nearest and dearest mentors, who was a guest on my show, who is one of my client collaborators, who is one of my brothers, transformed my life about a decade ago with his book and his principle called Living the Five Wealth Principles.
Mm.
And one of the principles is excitement, and the color is orange. And so I thought of him today. I thought of him because color, it moves us on an emotional level. It goes beyond the mental or the knowledge of a word,
Mm-hmm.
and allows us to actually feel something. So that's what I'm excited about, is feeling this year and not thinking so much.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. Instead of overthinking, you're going to be in touch with your heart.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So when I hear orange, I immediately think of, well, nothing rhymes with it.
I like
Right.
that too.
Yeah. And so to me, it's almost like you cannot fit it into a category, a box.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's how I feel about orange, is that it is unique in its own right. Just the color itself is unique, but the word itself is unique.
Yes. It
I love
is. And in Jamaica, we don't say orange it's orange.
that. Orange.
Orange.
Got it. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So pretty cool. Pretty cool. So what's your word this year?
So thank you for asking. So last year, my word was expand, and which was exactly what 2019 was for me, is expand.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that my word normally comes in the fall, like September, October shows up. And so in 2018, expand showed up probably about October. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to go with that and go, that's my word for the year. And not even a month later, I'm starting a podcast. I am, had you asked me if I should or could, was available to move to Washington, D.C. part time. So I'm like, you know what? Expands my word. Go for it. Let's do
Love
it.
it. You had an
And
expansive year.
yes. And I just want to put a pin there and just really speak to anyone who's ever had that experience where they have had a word or a nudge or, like you said, during meditation, a whisper
Yes.
or a gut feeling or something, and you didn't follow through. Yeah. So if you've had anything like that, I want to encourage you. I'm going to even challenge you to listen. Listen to that
Yes.
little whisper,
Yes.
to that gut feeling. It is, I think, imperative to your growth. And it is so interesting to me to see how as long as I've known you, 6 years, how every year that word, you just, it literally expands who you are.
Yes.
Yeah. And so this year, my word for 2020 actually showed up in June of 2019.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was going to I was going on a trip to actually speak in Houston. And it's funny because I'm going again this weekend to speak in Houston. And the word affluent popped up, right? Like out of nowhere. And I'm like, affluent? What is that? Like,
I
I don't know
love
what
that.
that means. And this is what was so amazing. What happened is I was supposed to stay in an Airbnb at that time when I was there. And it was late at night. It was almost midnight by the time my flight and my Uber got to the Airbnb. And the lock to the building did not work at all.
Mm.
And I was so lucky to have an Uber driver that was not going to leave a single woman with 2 suitcases and a purse on the side of a building that didn't open.
Yeah.
So she was also a single woman, so she got it. So she said, well, where else would you like to go? And you could see the skyline of Houston, and there was a building with the Marriott on it. And I was like, take me there. Let's just go there. So thank God for credit cards. That's all
Right.
I can say, because this was definitely an emergency. And so I was able to go to this Marriott, check in. I didn't realize it until the next morning, but this Marriott was connected to the convention center that I needed to be at. Right? That I did not have to walk outside. I didn't have to cross the street. All I had to do was walk across the skywalk. Now, had I missed out on that little word, affluent, I may have gone, oh, well, just take me to the nearest Motel 6.
Motel. Yeah.
Right. Or let me look for another Airbnb. But because of the word affluent, I was like, well, Marriott is semi-affluent. But let me tell you, this particular Marriott was extremely affluent. I mean, it was just a beautiful, beautiful hotel. It
Yeah.
had a pool that was like a lazy river in the shape of Texas. And, this was an opportunity to just really relax and not worry and just be present and have to just walk across the skywalk rather than walk probably a mile in a neighborhood that wasn't the best to get to where I needed to be. So I highly encourage, if you have that word that's pressing on your mind, your heart, pay attention to it. You just never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Word or color, huh?
Or color. There you go. Yeah,
Colors are so powerful.
I agree.
And yeah.
Well, and that's why they have the Pantone color of the year, right? Is
Yes.
because they set the tone for the whole
Creativity
year.
rules, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I in my wardrobe shopping in years past, I think I end up pick just a few colors for that year and don't even realizing I'm doing it. And then I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was in the same colors all year long. So I love that your word is a color.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I see Brian is in the audience. I don't know if he's still there, but he sent a shout out.
Oh, Brian says hello, ladies. Great show. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I think you can pin those. Like, remember back in the day on Google Hangouts where you could pin comments?
Oh, got
Try it
it.
out.
You can show on stream. It says,
Yes,
ah,
there it
there we
is.
go.
How cool is
Awesome.
that?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are friends from back in the Google Plus days.
I miss
Right.
those days in a
Those
lot of
days.
ways, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So if anybody else has any comments, we can definitely put your little shout out up on the screen as well.
I know, right?
Yes, that's so exciting. So we're trying something out. It's called Be Live, and hopefully we will get your feedback if you like it or not, and see if we're going to continue to use this platform. So talking about boundaries.
Yes. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah. So Christine, I have a question for you.
Oh,
Not to put you in the hot
no
seat or
pressure.
anything like that. No, no, no. Well, maybe to put you in the hot seat, maybe just a little bit.
The color is right.
Right? Yeah. Is there any time where you didn't use boundaries and wish you had of later?
So many times.
Right?
Let's make a long story a little shorter for this purpose of not, tiring out your audience. Uh, Boundary setting is something that's relatively new for me. I am up there in the decades, folks. I know it doesn't look it, but yes, been on this earth for some time, and for the majority of those years, up until a few years ago, it became apparent to me that I had no boundaries. I went from one extreme to the other, really.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up very guarded, very guarded. I had what people would call high walls.
Yeah.
And rather than seeing them as something to be adjusted, I completely obliterated my walls.
Yeah.
I just opened wide open, and that was good in a lot of ways. However, I was hurt very deeply in many ways, especially with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know this well. You've been one of my confidants, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Publicly, I thank you for that.
Thank you.
You are such a source, and you continue to be such a source of solid support for
Mm-hmm.
me. However, I won't give an instance that I didn't have boundaries and regretted it. The category is relationships, platonic relationships, and my intimate relationship, and it cost me dearly
Mm.
in a big way. However, there were very major lessons for me and takeaways that I am applying now, and I feel actually better as a person having these boundaries in place. And I'll just close my thought with a Brene Brown.
Mm.
You know Brene, right?
Yes.
Brene Brown is awesome, and
Love.
she has an interview. It's a clip that's been going around about boundaries, and she says that the most loving, compassionate people are the most boundaried people.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know that I just popped that on you. So
Oh no, it's okay. This
and
is
I
why we're
appreciate
here.
it. Yes. That's why we're doing it live, folks. So boundaries for me was really just a completely new concept about 10 and a half years ago. Most everyone knows my story, but just to touch base in case you don't, I was in an abusive relationship, had gotten out, and started counseling, Christian counseling immediately, and started reading books. And Boundaries was one of the books I started reading that was actually given to me probably 10 to 15 years prior. Not, I wasn't in the same relationship then, but it was just probably 10 years prior. And it was so eye-opening. Like, I had no clue that there's a thing called boundaries. I didn't know you had needs. So when we were talking earlier about the wife who was not asking to get her needs met, was not asking to get hugged back from her husband, she didn't know either. So you talk about building a wall. I said I had built myself not only just a wall, that I built myself in the castle, in the tower of the castle, even with a moat around it, that I was built such a high wall. And I was trying to protect myself because I felt like I had gotten hurt by so many people over my life, but especially in this relationship. So I was like that wounded, or felt like I was that wounded, abused dog, that I was just cowering down, trying to protect myself. And I'll never forget, I was reading it in a group setting. We were doing kind of a Bible study with it. And they were talking about being able to ask for getting your needs met. And I was like, I don't have needs. I'm not a needy person. So let me just clarify for those of you who are listening, having needs does not make you needy. It makes you human.
Right.
And that was a huge like sigh of relief. Like, what? I can just have a need and then ask to get it fulfilled. And if it doesn't get fulfilled, it's not about actually getting it fulfilled. It's about having the courage and the compassion to ask for what you need, period.
Yes.
And so I highly recommend Boundaries. They have multiple editions. There's one on dating, there's one on marriages. I believe there's one for children, maybe even parents too. And it is so eye-opening, completely eye-opening for me.
Yes.
So one of the things I was afraid of was to tell someone how I felt or thought, period. Like, I just would agree with you just to agree, not to rock the boat, not to make anyone upset. I was a huge people pleaser. And right, yeah. And I thought that I was thriving. And the truth was I was just surviving. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
just
Oh.
doing, yeah. I was just doing what it took to get through each day. And that was isolating who I really was. I may have been out and social and tried to really like be the life of the party, so to speak. But you didn't really know me.
Yeah.
I was very guarded. I was not willing to talk about anything. I wasn't willing to talk about what happened to me.
Yeah.
And just like you had a whisper about your word or color for the year, I'll never forget, I got home from vacation and it was just such a heavy feeling of everyone in my life, in my family that I grew up in, was emotionally unavailable. So, and I thought, I'm emotionally unavailable. How do I not be emotionally unavailable anymore? And here comes that whisper, and the whisper was, you have to be vulnerable. And I was like, I can't do that. Vulnerable. Like, I can't pronounce the word, right? And so to just start, I'll never forget, I was sitting right after that, sitting in a Bible study setting where there was probably 15 women, and most of them were new. And my whole body was shaking, trying to tell my story, tell my truth, just being authentic. And and let down that boundary, let down that wall, so to speak. And really, it wasn't letting down that wall. It was just kind of pushing a brick away, one brick at a time.
Yes.
And that's one step out of your comfort zone, is pushing that brick down one at a time. And then as I continued to push those bricks, continue to step out of my comfort zone, more came and more came down. And the next thing you know, like the whole entire walls, whole entire sections of the castle are being demolished, because the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you let down that wall, the more easier it gets. So I love the lesson of the more vulnerable that you are, the more confidence you gain. And we don't
Yes.
really talk about that enough. So imagine if this mom who is asking, really needed to ask her children to help out, if she's like, hey guys, we've had so much fun and I really want to continue to spend time with you. Can you help out? How much more confident she would be to ask that again next time.
Yes.
So it's just amazing to me that, people are so afraid of being vulnerable because they think, I can't. It's the hardest thing to ever do. And I'm telling you, once you start practicing it, even if it's just one tiny step out of that comfort zone, you get hope, right? It takes one step, tiny little piece of hope, to take another step,
Yes.
to take another step, and to take another step. So, yeah, boundaries is really for me about being vulnerable.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up vulnerability. That is another main vein topic, if you will, of Brene Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And she
Yes.
ties vulnerability into on being able to be vulnerable allows us to unleash our creativity, our creative thinking, and creative flow is something, I study. So it's when we're in that mode, things like the Marriott story happen
Yeah.
when we're in creative flow.
Yes.
Um, but with the vulnerability piece of it, it's just interesting because, like you say, you have this fear of being vulnerable. I think it also ties in with discernment and discerning who the right people are to be vulnerable with. That was something I had to learn as well
Yeah.
in my journey of learning vulnerability and how to be vulnerable and how to create these boundaries. Those were a little bit of my stumbling blocks of being vulnerable with the not so ideal people,
Mm.
which led to pain.
Mm-hmm.
And in my restoration process, I'm always tying stuff back to the divine.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that my confidence, or as I call it, my Godfidence,
Yeah.
um, through being vulnerable with the divine. And in that process, I learned how to be vulnerable then with other people and the right people,
Right.
because I felt that initial protection from the divine in my vulnerable state, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that, which brings up a really good point. But first of all, I want to say thank you, Kelly, for saying it's still surprising how much like me you were. So
Uh-huh.
what's funny, Kelly, is that we're all alike. Some of us are just willing to talk about it. Some of us just are more vulnerable and willing to talk about how being vulnerable is scary.
Yes. I thought the same thing, Kelly. I
Yeah.
thought when you were sharing your story, Shay, I was like, okay, that was me. That was me. That was me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, back to being vulnerable and what you were just saying. So, there are safe people, and then there are not safe people. And I think that also goes into boundaries. And, like you said, discernment,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome that some people are like, well, I don't have that discernment. And I think, well, you probably do. You just hadn't tapped into your boundaries about that person yet. Right. So I had to learn, um, that I look through a filter of people's potential.
Mm.
That I would find people and go, oh my gosh, they have so much potential to be, and then I would stop. But in my head, it would be like to be a good person,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
To be a good friend, a good boyfriend, a good husband, good whatever. But the reality is that I had to see them for who they were and trust their actions, not their words.
Mm.
Yeah. And that
Mm.
is when my discernment really kind of kicked in and my intuition just, it all molded together and was like, okay, what is he or she telling you by what they're doing rather than what they're pretending to believe that they're saying, right? Because they're pretending to
Totally
believe
get that.
what they're saying.
Yes. Yes. Now I have a question
Yeah,
live for you. Hey Shay, what do I say?
yeah, I love it.
It's really more what do you think, but what do you say is so where do we then discern this line? There's a line of discernment, I think, between who a person is as reflected by their actions, their thoughts, their words, their actions, and contrasted with what they may be mirroring as our behavior.
Mm,
That's something that came up for me over the last year is realizing and recognizing the things that I was seeing and happening to me from someone else was actually being reflected to me as areas that I may have unconsciously covered in shame. What do you think
mm.
about that?
Wow. Wow, what an amazing question. I love it. Thank you for asking. It is, gosh, so many things are going through my head right now.
Mhm.
So where do you draw the line to understanding discernment, or is it someone mirroring back to you who you are?
Or both, maybe.
So this is when I truly believe your meditation, your prayer, your I don't even know if there's a something else. Maybe it's a Bible study, maybe it's that inner dialogue.
Intuition, maybe?
Yeah, intuition would be good. Um, Download. I mean, there's so many words for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Journaling. So for me, it's journaling.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that is so extremely important because if you're seeing, like, I love this word because it's such a buzzword right now. So let's just use the word narcissistic, okay? So when you see someone who's narcissistic, and I'm going to even break it down anymore, being selfish,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and yet you don't really notice that they're being selfish. You just kind of notice that they're being selfish, right? Um, what I find so interesting is you have permission to fully ask them, right? To clarify what it is that what their actions are or their words are saying or what their actions are doing.
True. Mm-hmm.
And then that is when you can go into reflection through meditation or prayer or journaling and ask, okay, am I being selfish? And how am I showing up as selfish?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, but I think you have to do both. I think you have to be able to ask that question, ask clarifying questions, um, you know, of what someone's intentions are.
And that takes some bravery, right?
Oh, that takes having to step out of that comfort zone again and be vulnerable. Yeah,
I know, look at my face.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, like Kelly and you and I have said, like, we don't want to do that. No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But we have to. So, you get to say, okay, so when you say blank, what does that really mean? Or what does that mean to you? Like, explain that further to me.
Mm-hmm.
For
Mm-hmm.
example, with my dad, when I had read Boundaries, and there's another book which I highly recommend for any woman who has had any kind of toxic relationship. Well, men could probably read it too and learn a lot. Toxic relationship with anyone, whether it be a parent or a spouse. Relationship is called Women Who Love Too Much.
Huh.
And that is where I realized that my dad was manipulative.
Wow.
Right. And I was like, I had never seen anything like written down that I read that I got it. And I was like, wow, I had no idea he was manipulative. So he hid things in sarcasm.
Hmm.
So, I mean, while sarcasm is really fun, it's also not really saying what you mean. It's hiding it.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I heard this once, sarcasm is anger in a clown suit.
Huh. I like
And
that.
I absolutely love that
Yes.
analogy because that's really what it is how it's anger and you're trying to mask it by thinking you're funny, and it's really manipulating the other person to get them to do what you really want them to do instead of asking for your need to be met.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
So when I figured out that that's what was happening with my dad, I would say to him, okay, Dad, are you trying to manipulate me in this moment?
Hmm.
When you say blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know what that word means. And he was like me with the word vulnerable. He couldn't pronounce the word manipulation. And I said, well, what you said was this. And what I heard was this. So it sounds like to me you really want me to do this thing for you, but you're not really asking me to do this thing for you. You're just hiding it in kind of a joke, but it's not a joke because you're expecting me to do it. And he was like, I had no idea I was doing that. I had no idea.
Interesting.
So in that regard, every time I asked him that, he would clarify. Now, what's interesting is that my stepmom would not ask him that.
Hmm.
So he never clarified. So he may have changed with me because our relationship dynamic changed, but he didn't change fully for her. Right. And so she didn't get that same person that I got in the end. Yeah.
Well, which boils down to it really emphasizing, I should say, that this is an individual responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Setting your boundaries,
I was
having
just
your
going to say
needs
that.
met. We can't expect someone else to adjust for us. We set the standard for ourselves and we enforce those standards by doing these types of things, asking for clarification
Yes.
rather than making assumptions.
Yes.
You know, having the hard conversations or the difficult conversations rather than holding it in and then being resentful.
Yes.
And feeling miserable. And of course, I'm also speaking from experience on this because I am also a recovering people pleaser.
Right.
And so, what I will share based on what you're sharing is now that I'm in this process of learning how to speak for myself and stand up for myself in these kinds of ways, because I've been doing it in a general way. But when it comes to relationships, right? So now that I'm actually speaking up for myself, this freedom that I feel, there's nothing like it.
Right.
I can't even put it into words because I'm still learning, but I feel freer. I don't feel that angst in my relationships like I was before.
Right.
And it's just such a great feeling.
Yeah. I love it. Yes, it's definitely freedom. And so you would ask, like, where do you draw the line? You don't. You don't draw the line. You keep asking.
Mm, I got a high five.
Right? High
Yes,
five. Yeah, you
I
just
love
you
that.
just keep asking.
Just keep asking.
And whether that's ask to continue to clarify or ask for your needs to get met, you
Yeah.
just have to keep asking.
And what just came to my heart is if the person that you're asking and inviting to have these conversations isn't responsive, then you know that that person is not for you.
Right. So they're not technically a safe person.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the right person for you will entertain these types of conversations so we can get to understand each other better.
Right. Now, I would also put a pin there and say that give that some time.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right? Just don't have that one conversation. Oh, he didn't respond. She didn't respond the way I needed. I'm done. No, no,
Done.
no, no. I'm not saying that.
Love it.
Over time, if they're still like, I'm not willing to have this conversation, I'm not willing,
Yes.
then, maybe 6 months, a year, whatever, 30 days, I'll give you 30 days. You have this conversation for 30 days. And after 30 days, they're not willing to break that barrier and be vulnerable with you, then you need to figure
Then you
something
got to
else out.
bounce. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you do it for 30 days and they're like, oh, well, they're really serious about wanting to talk about this, eventually they're going to want to talk about it too.
Yeah. It boils down to behavior again. We were talking about actions, and if the person's actions and habits um, vary from the words that are coming out of their mouth, or no response at all, hello, been
Right,
there,
right.
um, then that's what I track. I track that habit, that pattern of behavior.
So I also want to pinpoint something too that you said. So if they're not responding, it has zero to do with you.
Mm,
And that's also where boundaries come in,
yeah.
because that's their own fear of being vulnerable, right?
Yes. Yes.
They're dealing with their own stuff that they're not willing to look at. They're not willing to talk about. They're not willing to ask those clarifying questions of themselves. They're in fear mode or assumption mode or, whatever.
Whatever mode. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
so, right. So if there's one person in the relationship, again, whether it's a parent or a coworker or a spouse, if there's the one person going, I think I need to have this conversation, then have that conversation, because that's your boundaries. That's getting your needs met, is being able to be expressive. Express your feelings is a need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to, be impeccable with your word and speak your truth, that's a need.
Yes. We're
Yeah.
both hovering around it, so I'm going to go ahead and mention it. Is the Four Agreements? The Four
Absolutely.
Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is it's just everything, you know.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that's another book that I highly recommend to everyone. And being impeccable with your word is the first agreement. And if you're impeccable with your word with yourself, that means you're actually speaking your truth, you're setting boundaries for yourself, and you're allowing that, you're really teaching how the other person to treat you.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what boundaries are. Boundaries aren't a bad thing. Boundaries are to say, I won't let you call me the female dog word ever again. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a boundary. And that is teaching that other person how, okay, I have a choice. I can either continue to disrespect or not.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you put that boundary down, then it's disrespect. But if you never say it, if you never tell them that you don't want that, then you've created another expectation, a silent contract that you want them to stop, but they're not. They should know. And unfortunately, that's not how relationships work.
Yeah.
So
I,
Kelly says, goodness, not taking things personally is so very difficult.
yes.
It is, Kelly. And what is, it goes back to boundaries again.
Mhm.
Because it's really about being able to focus on you, and that your bound, how someone is treating you is about them.
Yes.
How someone talks to you is about them. So if again we have that boundary down, that someone does not, no one calls you the female dog, and you're letting, and people are coming in and calling you that female dog, and you've never told them, you have to set that boundary. But
Yes.
the fact that they're saying it, that's about them. Yeah,
Yes. And if I may add,
please.
it's about them. And if it continues to happen, then it's about me. I want to just use the me in
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
because what we allow is what will continue.
right,
And that's something, again, as a recovering people pleaser, I learned the hard way. The lesson was definitely there for me,
yeah,
in terms of teaching people how to treat me through what I allowed. And for me, I believe I'm going to take it back again to the divine connection. And truly, the only way we can set healthy boundaries, that are sustainable, that are fulfilling boundaries, that are not ego driven boundaries,
right,
is when those are guided by the divine and guided to and aligned with our true self, as opposed to just this declaration out of an egoic state that's like, you're not going to treat me that way.
right.
I believe that setting healthy boundaries is a loving process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
For ourselves as well as other people.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, because it's, yeah, at some point then you have a choice.
Yeah.
You have a choice. Whatever that
Yeah.
choice is up to you.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what this life is all about, hunty.
Right,
Choice.
right. Um, and I will say, I just figured this out the other day about my own life. When I was in that abusive relationship, I didn't think I had a choice.
Mm.
And my dad was actually drafted into the army to go fight in Korea,
Mm.
right before the Vietnam War, and he didn't have a choice. He didn't volunteer to be in the army, he was drafted. So, generationally, he sent that message of he didn't have a choice to me,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
just figured that out like last week, and I was like, wow, that's so
Wow.
huge. And
It
so
is.
now I can see where how I lived in survival mode because I thought I didn't have a choice. And now the difference is, no, I have a choice. I take responsibility. I choose to thrive in everything that I do. And that's why expand and affluent is such an amazing, uh, amazing words to live by for the year.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. All of these things we're sharing is coming to my heart now are the ideals, if you will, in life. And we're human. And so being gentle with ourselves and our process, I think, is also an important piece of the puzzle. That's something I also learned
Yes.
in setting boundaries. It's a lot of stumbling, especially for someone who all their life was a people pleaser.
Yes.
And so I'm learning to be gentle with myself in this process,
Yeah.
because there are relapses. There are going to be relapses. And it's how we choose to respond to those relapses. It's how we choose to respond to someone doing something that's beyond our control. We can choose how we respond. So,
Agreed. Completely agreed. Well, Christine, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much
Thank
for an
you.
amazing, amazing, informative, and fun conversation.
Thank you so much for having me on tonight. This is
Yeah,
such an honor. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. It was a spontaneous thing, and it turned out to be such a great conversation that I'm sure our listeners will get lots of things. So I'm gonna take you away really quick and kind of finish up here. So thank you again for being on.
My pleasure.
Okay. So I just want to say again, thank you for Christine for everything that she shared with us and being willing to be vulnerable and being willing to share that she has a color rather than a word and that she's going to go forward in this year and just make amazing decisions from a place that's completely different than rather than just taking one word. She's going to move forward that is so out of her box and out of the box of society. And I can't wait to see it. So please share your word in the chat box, what your word for the year is, or a color like Christine had. I would love to hear it. And I just want you also to please follow me on YouTube. I have updated the YouTube channel. It is a beautiful, beautiful channel. I am excited about it, and you can, from there, you can find my website, you can find my LinkedIn and Instagram, and this Facebook page comes back to that as well. And also, I do want you to go to my website. It's shaysparks.com. And a pop-up will come up that you want to download the How to Be a Fearless Communicator, Guide to be a Fearless Communicator. And the best part about that is you will put your email in there and you'll have this guide, but it's just more than that. Going forward, you're going to get some videos. You're going to get some nuggets. You're going to get emails from me, not on a regular basis, but on a moment to moment basis. When the moment hits me, you're going to stay in touch. And the opportunity is there for you to be able to respond back to me. You can email me back and we can keep that conversation going off Facebook and offline. And the reason that's also important is because I have some goodies coming up in the next few months. I have a new book. I'm co-authoring with a new book coming out called Visionistas, Women Who Think Outside of the Box. So it's so perfect that Christine has a color rather than a word because, you know, that's what's going to change the world is people who think outside of the box. And also, I have some online courses that are coming up, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, I know that at some point you will be interested in knowing that and will have the opportunity to share that with people that you think this would be beneficial for. So again, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for listening and for your great comments. And keep this conversation going. You can always put something in the chat. Say it's a replay, and you're putting your color for the word, or you're talking about how being vulnerable or your situation with boundaries. We'd love to hear it. And again, follow me on YouTube and shaysparks.com and get your guide to be a fearless communicator. And I will be here next month on February 21st. So the 21st of the month is my day to put the show on. And if you have any questions that you want answered on the show, feel free to email me at heyshay@shaysparks.com. And the question is, hey, Shay, what do I say? What do I say to this person? Or maybe it's what do I say to myself in order to move forward? So have an awesome week and awesome month, and I will see you next time.